Shalom. It is, right around 40-ish degrees. Look, this little booger right there found herself a snake yesterday, and the rest of those jackholes, a rather raucous fight ensued. It was entertaining. Yeah, it's low to, I'd say probably low 40s right now. Humid, chilly, and just a beautiful morning. Nah, you can't see my breath. But yeah, it's beautiful. And so I figured we'd do a walk and talk. It's been a little while. There's a bunch of smaller concepts floating around in my brain, contributing thoughts, we'll say. They're not their own standalone thoughts, which is usually what these walk and talks are. So, the first of which is a quote that's been bouncing around in my brain. I don't remember who said it, but I love it. Learning occurs when someone is ready to learn, not when someone is ready to teach. That's really important conceptually in life, because every one of us is in one way or another responsible for teaching somebody something. I mean, it's obvious, work. You're responsible for something, or somebody. Church, need I say more? Family, right? These interpersonal dynamics that we have, where we have to deal with one another, and as we try and educate one another, it's important to remember that just because you're ready to teach doesn't mean that your pupil, your subject, is ready to learn. Learning only occurs when the student is ready to learn, not when the teacher is ready to teach. Now, this is important because we were just talking about trying to get your spouse on board with preparedness, and what does that look like? And it's important to remember that it ain't about you, bro or sister, badgering your better half. We should all know by now, does not progress make. That is not how it's done. So remember that just because you got something to say doesn't mean whoever you're saying it to has got the ability or the interest to hear it, which is something that all of us YouTube people should be aware of as well. And don't get frustrated with stuff. I love it. I can see my breath right now. The next thing I'll say is, if you have something, and I recently did a video on this. I don't know if y'all have seen it yet. It depends on how I post these things. But if you have something in your life that you need to do, just do it. Just go do it. Whatever that thing is, do it, because most of the excuses that we have as to why we don't do things are just simply that. They're just simply excuses. They are these straw men that we build up in our minds, and they're not actually issues. They're not actually problems. They're just falsified, unsubstantiated vapors, right? Impressions of issues in our mind, but they're not things are rarely as bad as we make them in our brain. So don't make them in your brain, make them in real life. Right? Get them out of your brain and into real life, and now it's just not that bad. So just do it. We talked recently on Patreon about fear setting, writing down things that, all right, let's say you're about to undertake a big thing, right? Whatever your big thing is. Maybe you are, okay, you're finally ready to come out of Her My People. And you were going to move from the big city out here into the sticks. With your beautifully dilapidated yet somehow watertight house that the Father has blessed you with. Right? Maybe that's your thing. And it's scary. Okay. Take a sheet of paper and write down what you're going to do. I'm going to move from the city to the sticks. Okay. Now write down the worst possible outcome. The worst possible thing that happens. You move there and you can't find work, and everybody starves to death, and they repo your truck, and then because you have no truck, you're walking through the woods trying to forage food, and you trip and snap your leg. And then you freeze to death and die of starvation out in the woods. Worst possible thing. Now assign a likelihood to that. Okay, how likely are all of these things? Okay. A lot of times what you'll find is the likelihood of this horror story that you have in your mind, the likelihood of it coming to fruition is basically zero. So now that you know, probability-wise, I gotta take this thing down, but my wife has gotten so used to it being here, she's like, we should build a greenhouse here. And I'm like, yeah, we should do that. You're right, we will get, me and this army of people I got in my back pocket, we will build a greenhouse there. So, the reality of the situation is usually, almost always, far better than what we make it out to be in our minds. And that's part of the fear setting example that we discussed on Patreon of just write it all down. What's the likelihood? Okay, basically zero. Okay, so what are the positive implications of this? Oh, well, we can live a more independent lifestyle, which we're going to come back to that word independent. We can live a more independent lifestyle. We can produce our own food. We can raise our children the way we see fit with little, if any, involvement from the powers that be. We can be our own supply chain logistics. We can get back to nature and grow our own hay to feed our own livestock and cut our own firewood and be healthier, not just by exercise, but by what we put into our body and the quality of the air that we breathe, and that the morning traffic is cows in the road, not, cars flipped over because they're going 90 miles an hour on the highway. Okay, what's the likelihood of all that happening? Okay, how does that affect your life, right? And this is called fear setting. So you look at the worst case and the best case and assign a likelihood to it. And I'm telling you, even if your worst case has a 4 out of 10 chance of coming to fruition, go. Just go do it. So it's one way to conquer those demons in your mind, to keep the voices at bay. You can't do it. You're going to fail. There's no way. By the way, this is another thing that we're going to talk about. Every single one of us needs cheerleaders, okay? We all need to know we're doing great. We all need to know, hey man, you rock. You're awesome. I love you. You're incredible. You did a great job on this thing. We as human beings do a pretty poor job of that. We tend to believe that as long as everybody acts fine, things are fine. That's not usually the case. So if you are in a good place, reach out to your brothers and sisters and let them know, hey, I appreciate you. You're awesome. I love you. You're great. Couldn't have done this thing without you. If you're not in a good place, that's okay. You can do that from inside of you as well. Look at, hey man, I did this thing and I rocked it. Or, I learned this thing. Or you can pat yourself on the back as well. And without segueing too hard into community and tribe, it's great when you have a group of people around you that are your people who can say, you know what? That thing that you did with those goats was awesome. I didn't know how to do that. Right? Bing! Gold star, smiley face. So we suck at that as a society. And now there's always outliers. There's always contraindicators. There's people who are the exception to the rule, not the rule. So in this case, if you are the exception to the rule, good on you. If you're not, myself included, do a better job of letting the people around you know that they are valuable. So, all my Shalomi homies, I love you guys. You're awesome. My mag, you guys are awesome. My tribe and the Shofarians, you guys are awesome. You guys really are. And talk about one of the positive benefits of coming out to here is that the people that we've met have blown our minds. Absolutely blown our minds. So be good to yourself. Be good to others. Do the thing. Whatever that thing is that you're not sure whether or not you should do it, just go do that thing. Just go do it. You can do it. And like I said, I'll have a video posting on this in the nearish future, or it may have posted already depending on when this one uploads. Brief talk on that. We are out here in this. We'll just say the broadband capacity out here is basically zero. I've not figured out how to weave poison oak into an antenna yet and use that to upload with. But man, if I could, would be good to go. It's not easy. It's not difficult. So don't confuse that either. I'm not saying that this is a hard life that I'm living here holding my sideways iPhone, because it's not. You want to see a hard life? Go talk to somebody who's cut timber their entire life, or mined coal their entire life, or has done blacksmithing, or been an auto mechanic, or whatever. That's hard work. This is not hard work. But it does get complicated, because bringing our product to market, this is not terribly easy to do out here. So we do have a live stream scheduled for this Thursday for the $10 and up patrons, the mastermind. Frankly, I haven't figured out how I'm going to do it yet, but one of my things is setting short, hard deadlines so that I know that by this time it will be done. So I say something, by this time I'm going to do it. Now, unless it's overalls that are manufactured in China that don't fit bear-sized bodies, I do it. So you can use that as a forcing factor for you in your life as well. But it's difficult, or at least complicated, for us to live stream, let alone upload videos. So we're doing our best to make that happen, and I'm looking into getting more or better internet service out here. So be aware of that. Now, I wanted to come back to the term independent. I was laying in bed last night thinking about this, as one would do naturally, while reading the Hopi Survival Kit. Yeah, I'll give you my thoughts on that eventually. That will probably end up a podcast episode. But the Oh, and the podcast is coming. There are 3 episodes recorded already. When I get to 6, I will, by that time, have figured out how to host them and to have a landing page for them on the website. There's back-end stuff that needs to happen with the podcast, but believe me, when it happens, y'all will be the first to know. Who do you think I want listening to this podcast? It's you guys. So you'll find out about it. Now, I'm laying in bed reading the Hopi Survival Kit, trying to fall asleep, but kind of switched on at the same time. And stand by. Something moved. There's a giant swamp rabbit. I mean giant, like the size of a Yorkshire Terrier out here who needs to die. And then there's also rumor of, there's a deer print right in the middle of my muddy driveway. There's also rumor of a 10-pound squirrel, says my wife. She's like, babe, it's like this long. It's 3 feet long. I was like, okay. She said it jumped from this tree to that tree and it landed on a branch and broke the branch. Well, I went and looked at the branch. It was like a 3-inch diameter pine branch that didn't have heart rot. I'm like, okay, well, whatever landed on that was big. She insists it's a squirrel. We were laying in bed. I'm like, babe. Oh, hold on. There's a hawk. Awesome. It's a golden eagle, not a hawk. Come on. I doubt you guys can see it. Right back there on top, there's a bar that runs that way, and right in the middle of it, the golden eagle. I thought, oh, why should I move out of the city? This is why. This is awesome. So we're laying in bed, and I'm like, babe, they don't make squirrels that big. She's like, I'm telling you it was a squirrel. So I'm Googling like all fur-bearing mammals in this part of the country. I'm like, was it a groundhog? No. Was it a wombat? No. I'm like, okay. So now there's rumor of this Gigantosaurus Rex squirrel jumping from tree to tree, breaking limbs. Oh, and then Harlan came and told me the other day, he's like, I saw the squirrel. It jumped from this tree to this tree, and then a branch fell out. And I'm like, okay. So I run and I get the 22, and I'm like, where did it go? Can't find it. So, anyway, yeah. Independent, the Hopi Survival Kit. The term independent, I think, is a term that I'm going to start resting more on. Resting, M-O-R-E space O-N, not M-O-R-O-N, not like, you're a moron. No, I'm going to lean more on the term independent. Now, if you're like me, you immediately think of a centrist, not a Republican and not a Democrat. To which I would say, I don't blame you for your mind going there. That's where my mind goes, but that's not what I'm talking about. And frankly, I hate politics. I think the two-party system is bull, and I think the vast majority of people are unhappy with their political representation and don't really identify wholeheartedly with either party. It's been my experience, just talking with lots of people, because that's in large part what I do, that most people are plugged for Seth Denson's excellent podcast, Somewhere in the Middle, which is great branding, by the way, brother. That is a great name, Somewhere in the Middle. And he has a really good show. So if you're into podcasts, you can go check that out. I've been on one of them. I was going to be on the second, but the truck threw a serpentine belt on the way to Dallas to do that show. But anyway, most people are somewhere in the middle. Now, I'm not talking about politically independent, although I am. And just before you send me all the hate mail, let me restate, I don't care about politics. I don't care about politics. Politics is a huge waste of time, and everything in our daily life has been politicized now. And I'm over it. Because if politics actually accomplished anything, they wouldn't let us participate in it, says me. Now, I have my political convictions and opinions, which we will not get into now, maybe not ever. But what I mean by independent is independent of the system, independent of the machine, being able to produce your own food, being able to set your own work hours, being able to control your own product and workflow, creating your own inputs and utilizing your own outputs, being independent from the system. Good morning. Look who it is. What's up, Pinky? So, you want to say hi to the people, babe? No? You're cold? Good, they didn't want to talk to you anyway. You ready to go? I'll put a bow on this. So what I mean by independent is this, there's been a lot of talk and I'm right there on the cutting edge of it, of rebranding prepper. I'm over prepper. I like the words preparedness lifestyle. I like Pastor Joe's neo-pioneering. I like the phrase modern homesteading a lot because I think that's where we are at. And I think homesteading is... Yeah, hi, say hi. Yeah, we got to go to town. Yeah, we're not going to swing right now. Oh, spread. No, we're not going to ride the swing. We got to go to town. This is my biggest conflict in the day, and this is what I mean by independent. I like the term neo-pioneering. I like the term modern homesteading because that's what I believe we do here. And I believe homesteading is, for me, as I understand it, the ultimate expression of preparedness. Controlling as many variables and inputs and outputs as possible to get independent from the system. So I just wanted to leave these nuggets for y'all to macerate on, let it marinate, and I'm sure y'all will tell me what you think. So this chicken's in here trying to lay an egg in the bunker. Yeah, but where? Where? Where the heck is this thing? Up there? Did you leave me one? She's laying in the tile saw. Probably. I'll look up there when we get back from town. So as you can see, I've got real pressing matters to get to. But that's what I wanted to impress upon y'all this morning. And it's been a while since we've had a walk and talk, and now that I'm here full time, I think we'll do this a little bit more. So thank you guys for being along for the ride. I want you guys to know that the Patreon thing, we started the Patreon account in response to lots of people asking us how they could help. How can we support y'all? So we started the Patreon channel, and in an effort to always bring you value, rather than just taking your $1 a month or more, I wanted to build it out into something that created value, that it was a producer content and a producer of value, not a consumer of your dollar. So please know that when I bring up Patreon, while it is kind of sales pitchy, it is absolutely a value, and it helps us bless other people, that revenue, and it helps us lead the life that we are leading. So it does support us, not 100% by any stretch of the means, so don't get that twisted, as the children say. But it does help us, and we are very thankful for it. And I don't bring it up facetiously on a quest to separate you from your last dollar. I bring it up because we actually, I feel, create valuable content there that I don't know anybody else is doing. They are actual consultations, actual answers to your actual questions by name. John Smith wants to know. John Smith, here's what we think after your question. We've done some analysis. This is what we think is the answer to your question, and we're going to share with the group for everybody's betterment. There are I believe it's over 100 Patreon posts there. So your $1 a month or more gets you access to all of that. So please don't think that I'm a snake oil salesman for bringing it up, because I'm not. I think it's an incredible value. And as I've said before, I believe it's the best value on the internet, period. It'll probably save your life. And I mean that wholeheartedly. So with that, y'all, I got to go to town. Shalom.